Okay.
Yep.
Call the meeting of the North Reading School Committee to order for Monday, April 11th. We have a few items that we need to get through before we get into our public budget hearing. First item on the agenda tonight is public input. Is there anybody wishing to be heard in public input? Okay, seeing none. This time we'll go into continued business. We have an update from the superintendent on the secondary school building project.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. As you know, we have received a letter from the MSBA regarding the design enrollment for the proposed middle school section of the middle school, high school feasibility study. And that enrollment projection was 630. I did call the MSBA as directed by the committee to have a conversation with them to find out if in fact there was any consideration given to turnover of homes from those individuals who do not have children to those individuals that do. Through the conversation, they explained to me, as they did when I had this conversation regarding the design enrollment for the high school, that through this process that they call the modified cohort survival methodology, that information is taken into consideration. In fact, the original base enrollment was 570 students. And so when they applied the survival cohort methodology, they were able to add approximately 62 students, bringing us up to the current design enrollment projection of 630 students. So they're pretty firm on that number. And as you know, we have an agreement that we need to sign within 21 days, and that deadline expires April the 17th.
So reading this and seeing the letter, I'm more comfortable with that projected number of students now. So knowing that they've added 60 to their original number, or 62, makes me feel a little more comfortable. And as Mr. Bauer said at the last meeting, this isn't going to be, even if we did have a few students over the 630, we're going to have adequate sized classrooms that meet state standards and federal standards. So we can squeeze a few kids into a new or renovated school versus squeezing them into smaller spaces that we haven't had now.
Continuing along, we have in your packet, there is a letter from the MSBA confirming the North Reading Building Project as an agenda item for the designer selection panel meeting that has been scheduled for April 19th, 2011. And so that will be taking place. The next SXBC meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, Tuesday, April 12th, beginning at 6:30 p.m. in the middle school library. At 5:30 p.m., the subcommittee of the SSBC that has been charged with reviewing the designer applications will meet and will be prepared to then present their recommendations to the SSBC at the full meeting beginning at 6:30. So that will be taking place tomorrow evening.
Can you just provide a brief description of how the panel selection is going to work at that December 19th meeting?
Sure. As a matter of fact, panel members received a letter from MSBA, and it talks about what will take place. There are 3 representatives from the SSBC in North Reading that will join members of the designer selection panel at the MSBA on the 19th. Those 3 members are Charles Carucci, Jerry Venezia, school committee member, and Charles Carucci is the school building committee chair, and Laurie Witz, who is also a member of the school building committee. Those 3 representatives will join the MSBA designer selection panel, and that panel is made up of a variety of individuals that represent the trades as well as MSBA staff and public members of the community. And they will go through a process where they will rank each of the proposals as have been submitted and then come up with their top 3. The subcommittee will also bring their top 3 to the MSBA, and at that point in time, they'll make either a determination to move forward with one candidate as the designer for this project, or at the next MSBA designer selection panel committee meeting, there will be interviews held. That decision will be made. And I believe the SSBC, Cliff, correct me if I'm wrong, will be making a recommendation tomorrow night.
Which our intention is a recommendation of 1 to 3 to carry forward to roster.
Mhm.
And there's 15 members on the designer selection board. Of the 15, we will comprise 3 of those.
Right.
And all of the members of it will be reviewing the selection packets and they'll reach a satisfactory conclusion.
And once we have the designers selected, how long does it normally take to get a contract signed and get them on board?
Not quite sure.
It should be very quick.
It should be very
It's pretty
quick.
quick with the project manager, right?
But it should be very quick.
And then from there, we'll get right into the feasibility study.
Right into the design specifications.
Okay. Questions? It's good that it's moving along?
Now it's going to really be moving along.
Yes.
I have reviewed all 12 packets. And it's a bit of an ordeal.
Yeah.
Hopefully, everyone will have diligently.
The next, we have to vote on the second reading of a policy manual review revision for section B of our policy manual. We, over the years, about every 2 or 3 years, have been looking at the policy manual to revise sections that need revising. This year, we're taking a more direct approach, and we're starting with A and going right up to as far as we can get this year. And most of these revisions are mainly wording sections, changing he to she, he, or him to him, her, since we now have a female superintendent, whereas before we had a male superintendent, so we need to take care of all those housekeeping things, and bringing some things up to date that need to be brought up to date. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the revision of section B of the school committee policy manual.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Arricchetti, second by Mr. Bowers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you to the policy.
Yes,
section.
thank you. We're looking forward to section C. Next, middle school principal search timeline. Kathy?
Yes, in your packet, you'll come across a timeline that outlines the search process for our next middle school principal. As you know, our middle school principal, John Fouché, has announced his resignation and retirement. He announced it to his staff on April Fool's Day, and at that point, on April 1st, and then on April 4th, we commenced. So if you take a look at the timeline, it's in your packet. It gives you the steps along the way of the process for hiring our next principal. So as you can see, we have already advertised. Advertising will close April 27th. On April 6th, I sent a memo out to parents and faculty and the community regarding focus groups that will be held this week, Wednesday, April 13th, at 2:30 for the staff and faculty, and at 6:30 in the evening for parents and community members, to give members of the school community an opportunity to tell me what their hopes and dreams are, what are the characteristics, what are they most looking for in the next principal of the middle school. And already I've received many emails from individuals saying they want someone that's just like Mr. Fouché.
That's nice.
So I don't know if we can clone him, but that's what they want. So as you can see, we're going through, I will be publishing an opportunity for people to sit on the interview committee and be part of that process. The committee will be made up of 2 parents, 1 community member, 3 teachers, 2 administrators, the director of academic services. I will be on it, and hopefully one of those parents will be a representative of the school council. But we'll take a look at all of those individuals that are interested and then make a determination regarding who will sit on that interview committee. You can see that applications are due. We'll go through an application review process with members of the administrative team. We'll go through an interview committee orientation and determine what those questions are that will be asked based on the data that's collected through the focus groups as well as from our administrative team. Interviews will be scheduled. Interviews will be held the week of May 16th, and then we will schedule site visits, and there will be an administrative follow-up interview. and then hopefully we'll be able to make a selection by June 1st. That's the intent.
Any questions on the principal? So, I just want to make a comment. I understand John's desire to retire, but disappointed because of 3 years or 4 years here? In the 3 years here, he's done some really innovative things in this school, and I think especially the school within a school for the sixth graders to try to more gradually integrate them into middle school life and some of the other changes that have gone on up here. And I really appreciate the foundation that you've put in place, John, for the school moving forward. I think you've done an excellent job. So,
Thank you, and I appreciate that. It's been a real privilege to be associated with this school district. So again, it's been short, but it's been very sweet. So thank you again.
great to
I
have you.
appreciate the kind words.
And you get to go out with a bang with your last Washington DC trip, right?
That's right.
Not too much of a bang.
No. That's true. Don't be carried away. Okay, next we have school committee self-evaluation. Ms. Arquetti, could you briefly explain this to our audience and then?
Sure. So earlier this year, we decided that we would start a subcommittee to look at our process around evaluating the school committee as well as the superintendent. We are required to review the superintendent by policy, but reviewing the school committee's activities is a relatively new thing. I think in the history of our school committee, I don't think there has been.
Not since I've been on it.
Yeah, okay. So the committee is made up of myself, Cliff Bowers, and the superintendent, and what we did was meet and talk about how we would like to review the activities of the school committee. And in fact, the MASC, the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, has a pilot self-assessment instrument, and they presented it to us to pilot. And we reviewed it and tweaked it. Mr. Bowers made a beautiful chart. It is an enormous document. It looks like this, and it's about 12 pages. And everyone's going to get one except Cliff, because he made such a great
Oh, you get to take one of these
art
home?
project. Yeah, that's for Mike. That's for you.
All right.
This for Jerry. The document that I just handed you is the rubric from MASC, which basically outlines 4 areas that you can rate different domains of the activities of the school committee. So some of these domains include leadership and governance, curriculum and instruction, financial and asset management. So there's quite a bit of detail. And in this rubric, they describe what each category means. So the ratings are underdeveloped, developing, well-developed, and the final category is embedded and sustainable. And I particularly like that last category, to comment on the rating scale, because it shows that full circle kind of activity of the school committee to taking some of the activities that we do as a matter of course, but really embedding them in the community. So we've developed a shorter version of the assessment tool, which is a little bit more manageable. And in the beginning, it gives an example of one of the subdomains. In this case, I chose the establishes goals for districts, and it shows how to apply the different categories. So over the course of this next 2-week period, each member of the committee will fill this out. This is a matter of public record, so your assessment and comments will be part of the record. And it is a very open process. So we will come together as a subcommittee and make a synthesis of all the various ratings. And then we will present that to the committee. I think the April 25th meeting, right, Dr.? Okay. And then we will discuss how we're going to use this information to inform our next year's activities. So it's meant to be part of our goal setting and evaluation. It's not only a self-reflection as members serving the public, but also as a committee, how well we work together and the kinds of goals that we set for ourselves and how we achieve those goals throughout the year, and where we sort of fallen short and where we've succeeded. So we want to celebrate the things we've done well as well as look at the things that we can improve on as a committee. And I think this is a very important process, particularly because it occurs